Imagine, if you will, the quiet discipline of a morning ritual. You are a person who has spent decades cultivating a sense of responsibility toward your own health. You walk, you monitor your diet, and you possess a stoic resolve. When a dull, unusual headache begins to bloom behind your temples, your instinct, honed by years of maintaining a productive life, is to manage it. You reach for an over-the-counter pain reliever, perhaps a tablet of aspirin or a common anti-inflammatory, to numb the discomfort so you may continue with your day. You view this as solving the problem. In the clinical world, however, we see this differently. We see this as a deceiving ritual, an intellectual trap. By silencing that headache, you may be unintentionally muting a high-priority distress signal from the most complex organ in the known universe. You are using a chemical suppressant to silence a brain that is trying, with everything it has, to warn you of an impending structural collapse. This disciplined approach to pain management, which served you well in your 50s, may now be your greatest biological liability as you navigate your 60s and beyond. We must understand that a stroke is rarely a lightning bolt from a clear sky. It is the predictable endpoint of a vascular system that has been degrading, quietly and invisibly for years. Every 40 seconds, a brain somewhere on this planet is hit. Every year, 6 million lives are lost to this event, making it the second leading cause of death and the primary architect of permanent disability. Yet, the part that is rarely communicated with sufficient clarity is this. In a staggering number of cases, the brain provides a specific 72-hour window of opportunity. It sends out warning shots, transient episodes that hold the key to preventing a catastrophic neurological bankruptcy. To ignore these shots is to engage in a cold biological calculation, where the stakes are your very autonomy. When you experience a brief symptom and choose to wait it out, you are trading a 72-hour life-saving diagnostic window for 10 minutes of psychological comfort. We must discuss the aggressive intervention many seniors attempt at home: self-administering anticoagulants or aspirin the moment they feel off. Without a CT scan to determine the nature of the event, this is what I call the hemorrhagic gamble. You see, there are two distinct ways a brain fails. The first is ischemic, a blockage, a fuel line cut off, accounting for 85% of cases. The second is hemorrhagic, a burst vessel where blood pours into the delicate tissue, creating a lethal pressure. If you thin your blood, while a vessel is already leaking, you are not helping. You are unintentionally accelerating a brain bleed. You are forcing your vascular system into a lethal trade-off between a clot and a catastrophic burst. This is why we must move away from the chemical sledgehammer of self-medication and toward the precision of biological detective work. To do this, we must first learn to trust the body's sophisticated early warning sensors. We often view a glitch, a moment of slurred speech or a sudden stumble, as a failure of the system. In reality, these are evolutionary adaptations. Consider the transient ischemic attack, or TIA. In clinical terms, a TIA is a system stress test. It is the body's attempt to reveal plaque instability before total failure occurs. Consider the phenomenon known as Amaurosis Fugax, or fleeting blindness. Picture yourself in your kitchen, perhaps reaching for a glass of water, when suddenly the vision in one eye goes dark. It is as if a black curtain has been pulled down, or as if someone smeared gray mud across your lens. You rub your eyes, you blink, and within 60 seconds, the light returns. The temptation is to blame screen time or fatigue. But the cerebellar logic tells a different story. The artery feeding your eye is not an isolated tube. It is a direct branch of the internal carotid artery, the great vessel in your neck that fuels your brain. That black curtain was likely a microscopic fragment of plaque that broke away from a narrowing in your neck and wedged itself into the tiny eye artery. It was a warning. Had that fragment traveled just 2 millimeters to the side, into a major cerebral artery, you would not be rubbing your eyes. You would be facing permanent paralysis or the loss of speech. This eye episode is a fire alarm. It is the body revealing that the non-stick lining of your arteries, the endothelium, is no longer secure. The endothelium is a microscopically thin layer of cells that coats the inside of every artery. When healthy, it is the smoothest surface in existence, allowing blood to glide by without friction. But through years of metabolic scarring, it becomes rough. It becomes sticky. This is where the fifth warning sign, one that surprises many, comes into play. The combination of vitiligo and new, unusually intense headaches. Vitiligo is an autoimmune process where the body attacks its own pigment cells. However, the immune system rarely stops at one organ. That same inflammatory process can quietly target the endothelium, creating a scarred landscape where cholesterol and platelets begin to cling. When this underlying inflammation pairs with a change in the character of your headaches, it is a signal that your vascular architecture is under duress. We must also examine the drunk walk, or the sudden loss of coordination. Your cerebellum, located at the base of your skull, acts as your body's onboard flight computer. It constantly calculates your position in space, so you can walk with dignity and precision. This computer is fed by the vertebrobasilar system, arteries that thread through the bones of your neck. If the fuel flow in these lines drops for even a few seconds, the computer glitches. You veer sideways, you grab a door frame, or you feel a violent spinning sensation. This is not bad shoes or getting up too fast. This is a cerebellar transient attack. It is a sign that the fuel line is narrowing to a critical point. Perhaps the most distressing warning is the word salad. There is a profound difference between the common tip of the tongue moment, where you forget a neighbor's name, and a true neurological breakdown. In the left hemisphere of your brain lie Broca's and Wernicke's areas. One forms the words, the other organizes the meaning. When these areas lose blood flow, even for 3 minutes, the results are haunting. You may know exactly what you want to say, but the words come out chopped or stuck. Or you may speak fluently but produce complete nonsense. Because these episodes often self-correct, many seniors dismiss them as exhaustion. But you cannot ignore a broken alarm just because it stopped ringing. This is the transition point from manageable vascular narrowing to permanent neurological bankruptcy. If you recognize any of these signals, the fleeting blindness, the one-sided numbness that feels like drunk skin, the sudden stagger, or the speech glitch, you have entered the 72-hour window. This is the time for the minimalist protocol. This is not a time for panic, but for clinical precision. Step 1 is immediate positional support. If you feel these symptoms, do not sit bolt upright. Lie flat. Raise your legs slightly above the level of your chest. This uses gravity to optimize cerebral blood flow, ensuring that every available drop of oxygenated blood reaches the struggling brain tissue. Keep your head in a neutral position. Do not kink the neck vessels by propping yourself up on high pillows. Step 2 is environmental stabilization. In this 72-hour window, your vascular system is in a state of extreme instability. You must avoid anything that causes sudden vessel dilation or constriction. This means zero alcohol, zero smoking, and crucially, zero hot baths or steaming showers. A sudden shift in vessel diameter can dislodge a precarious clot, turning a warning shot into a direct hit. Step 3 is the implementation of the buddy system. If you live alone, this is the moment to call a family member or a trusted friend. You need an observer. If a more serious episode occurs, and you lose the ability to speak, you require a second set of eyes to execute your pre-planned emergency response. Finally, step 4 is the transition to precision diagnostics. When you meet with your physician, do not settle for a general checkup. You are requesting what I call the vascular trio. First, the carotid duplex ultrasound. This is a structural and functional map of your neck arteries. It tells us not just if there is plaque, but how that plaque is behaving. If a narrowing of 70% or more is found, we have routine, life-saving procedures to clear that path before the blockage becomes total. Second, the HbA1c test. We are looking for metabolic scarring. A single fasting glucose snapshot is insufficient. We need to know the average sugar levels over the last 90 days to see if your blood has been caramelizing the delicate lining of your vessels, making them brittle and prone to rupture. Third, Holter monitoring. A standard ECG in a clinic lasts only a few seconds. It often misses atrial fibrillation, an intermittent heart rhythm irregularity that acts like a clot factory. By wearing a monitor for 24 hours, we can catch these hidden rhythms. If found, we can reduce your stroke risk by 60 to 70% with targeted, well-studied protocols. As we bring these observations together, I want you to reconsider your relationship with your body. You are not a passive bystander to your own aging. You are the steward of a biological masterpiece. Your body does not fail randomly. It communicates strategically. It sends these warning shots not to frighten you, but to empower you. The shift we are discussing today is emotional as much as it is medical. It is the shift from being a symptom suppressor, someone who hides pain under a veil of over-the-counter pills, to becoming a biological detective. It is about regaining authority over your physical future. If you have experienced even one of these episodes, even if it was months ago, and lasted only a few minutes, do not rely on your memories. Write it down in plain, clinical language. Bring that list to your next appointment. Ask the hard questions about the vascular trio. By decoding these warning shots now, you are choosing diagnostic precision over the uncertainty of a crisis. You are choosing to live life on your own terms, with the biological peace of mind that comes from knowing you have secured the architecture of your mind. Your brain has spent a lifetime protecting you. Now, in this 72-hour window and beyond, it is your turn to protect it.